Hello everybody, this is Yoko Anime Reactions, and yes, I know the room is slightly a mess, but we're still doing, reconstruction, we're doing the whatever renovations. My dad and mom are getting ready to go for his second round of chemo on Wednesday, so I'm assuming she's going to come in here at some point and start packing the bags. So that's why I'm trying to go on ahead and get this done now, so that way if she does, I don't have to worry about it interrupting anything. And yeah, it's just stuff going on. Anyway, this is going to be my review for My Hero Academia Season 6, Episode 17. Now, I'm sure everybody and their mother who is a fan of the show was waiting for this episode to pop up at some point. Because this is the episode that gives us more backstory on Shoto's family life and how it started and how it went throughout their lives. And I already knew that, he forced Shoto's mother into a quirk marriage, but Shoto, I am assuming Shoto didn't know this, but she had the option to say no. She had the option to not agree to the quirk marriage, but she said yes on her own free will. So she knew that this was only a quirk marriage, an arranged marriage, that she was supposed to have kids with him that would have good combination of their quirks. And I'm assuming part of the reason was due to, it mentioned that her family was kind of struggling when it came to, I'm guessing, money and probably influence, so she was probably wanting to help her family out. I don't know. And I'm assuming another possibility would have been maybe her holding out hope that maybe they might fall in love someday, because that can happen, obviously, in that sort of situation where they could fall in love. And then it would, be a normal marriage. But even when she decided to do it of her own free will, she probably was not expecting it to go how it went. And yeah, part of this is definitely on both of their heads on this one, because with how Toya turned out, because, obviously mostly Endeavor, because, he was the one who was pushing him to be strong enough to go and surpass All Might eventually, and got it into his head that he could do it someday. And when they finally realized that, or the doctor finally told them that, Toya shouldn't be using his quirk because it's causing him damage, that they were trying to get him to not do it. They should have nipped this in the bud the first time they saw his quirk actually hurt him, because Shoto's quirk does not hurt him, and I'm assuming, I don't know if Natsuo and Fuyumi have their father's quirk. I'm assuming they have their mother's quirk if they have a quirk at all. Anyway, dang it, what was I saying? But yeah, they should have dipped this in the butt and told Toya, your quirk is not suitable for what you're wanting to do with it. Your best bet is to find something else that you can be passionate about and go with that, because like I said, his quirk is obviously causing him damage. His quirk is not suited to his body, essentially, because his body is more like his mother's body, where it's susceptible to heat, but he's got his father's quirk. So that's essentially a bad matchup, and that's nobody's fault at this point. It's just a bad combination of genes. Though I wouldn't be at all surprised if eventually in that world they have, where they could take genes from both parents that are compatible, like that sort of thing, and combine them for the baby. I'm assuming they'll come up with that at some point. But I'm assuming it didn't happen in their time, in their lives, because they probably would have used it, because, Todoroki he had money, apparently. He had enough money to buy off her family to marry her, but, yeah, they should have told him that right from the start when they first saw him trying to use his quirk and it caused him pain. They should have nipped that in the bud right then and there, because then they might have avoided all this. But even still, if they had done it from a young age, they might have been able to nip it in the bud, because the kid's stubborn. Probably even more stubborn than his father, but still. Anyway, but yeah, they should have done that. They might have been able to avoid this whole situation, but I guess Endeavor was stubborn and figured that he'd be able to power through it and still be a good hero, but I don't know. But anyway, they had Fuyumi, and then they had Natsuo, and by this point, his hair was at least starting to change from white to red. I'm sorry, from red to white. Red to white. Sorry, I might... So I'm willing to bet that it goes from Toya to Fuyumi to Natsuo and then to Shoto, and it comes to age from oldest to youngest. So I'm assuming that Natsuo is probably at least 19, maybe 20 at this point, because Shoto is probably 15, 16 by this point. And he was apparently, I'm guessing, I think he's going to school to be a doctor. So I don't know to be completely honest, I have no idea if Fuyumi or Natsuo actually have quirks. Because they were essentially tossed aside just like Toya, so I'm assuming they either had only their mother's quirk or didn't have a quirk at all. But I did notice that when it was showing Natsuo at a younger age, he had bits of red in his hair, but later on we see he only has white hair. So did his hair color do what Toya did, where it changed from a little bit of red to all white? Or, I don't know. Anyway. Anyway, we see Toya still trying to do what he was originally asked to do, which was surpass All Might someday, and he is starting to become a little bit desperate for his father's recognition and love at this point. And Endeavor starts to take this out on Rei, even though she can't control Toya. She could try, but you could lecture a kid all day, and even... Actually, the only way you probably could do it is if you were to, be physically abusive or whatever, but if you're not, then you cannot stop a kid from dreaming. You cannot stop them from dreaming no matter what you try. You can try and deter them, but they ain't gonna give up unless they end up deciding to give up by themselves. But yeah, she has no control over Toya or the fact that he inherited her weakness to fire. I had to think for a second to get my brain to work. And Toya is starting to get a little upset at Natsuo and Fuyumi that they're not in agreement with him about how their parents are being unreasonable and not giving them, what they want. Because I'm assuming that Fuyumi and Natsuo don't really care that their father isn't paying that much attention to them like he does Shoto, because they didn't want it. Because I'm assuming they didn't want to be pro-heroes, so it didn't really bother them when their father didn't want them to be pro-heroes. So, it doesn't really bother them. Because, Fuyumi's a teacher, and Natsuo is trying to be a doctor. But, yeah, by the time Shoto gets there and is born, Toya's hair is almost completely white at this point. Because when he was talking to Fuyumi earlier in a flashback, where she was they were both little kids, obviously, but his hair was like Shoto's, but opposite, which means his hair was white here, and his hair was red here. So, by this point, his hair is almost completely white. And he's still trying to get his dad to watch what he can do and praise him, essentially, instead of what he's trying to get Toya to do, which is to give up on being a pro hero and find another thing he can be passionate about and work towards that, because this essentially is causing him damage. It's causing him burns. I'm assuming it's causing him some sort of psychological, mental issue with the whole being a pro hero and surpassing All Might, which he cannot do because it would kill him. And by this point, I think Natsuo is probably at least 2-3 years old. Fuyumi's probably 5, 6, and Shoto was just born. And Toya is essentially begging his father to essentially give him what he wants, which is recognition for being what he needs. And Endeavor at this point is still trying, is essentially is trying to get him to not be a pro hero. Telling him to his face that essentially you're not going to be able to be a pro hero. You're going to have to give up on that and find something else you're passionate about. And Toya takes this to mean that, yeah, you're not good enough, and I'm replacing you with Shoto. And Toya goes as far as to attack Shoto when he's a baby and has no clue what's going on. I don't know what they did to stop him, but they stopped him somehow, and Endeavor is getting mad at Ray for not reining in Toya. I'm like, how do you expect her to rein him in when he's like this? She can't, even if you, because what if he was to use his quirk on her? She can't fight back. Because, well, Ice is going to be getting its butt kicked anyway, but she can't handle the heat anyway. And, yeah, it's at this point that Endeavor decides to keep Shoto away from the other kids, and I kind of saw his point, but it should have been that he should have kept them away from only Toya, because Toya was the one who attacked him. Natsuo and Fuyumi have done nothing to him. But that's the reason why he did. We finally get the reason why. Because, like I said, we only got Shoto's point of view, and Shoto didn't know everything that was going on. And, is this point that they've gotten to puberty for Toya and possibly Fuyumi close enough as well. And that's when his flames start getting even hotter to the point where they turn blue. And he gets excited about it because he thinks that this is a good thing, even though, like I said, it's still burning him because he had the flames around his abdomen area. And when he gets home after that, Endeavor pulls his shirt up and sees the burns on that area, and knows that he's still doing it, even though they told him essentially to not do it. And he gets mad at Ray about this and attacks her. And the funny thing is that we've seen how Shoto is normally, how he doesn't show his emotions very much, but to see him acting like he did as a kid, but then again, he was a kid back then, to try and protect his mother from Endeavor. And we sadly see Natsuo and Fuyumi having to hiding away at this because they've seen essentially how this has gone probably their whole lives, and they're trying to stay out of it and stay safe, I'm guessing, because all this is going on where Toya is, I guess, a reason as to why all this is happening, but Endeavor pushing him to be a pro hero and not realizing it, not nipping this in the butt when he should have, is also part of the problem. Because if he had, this might not have happened. Maybe. It probably wouldn't have happened, but it would have still been, he still probably would have resented his father, but still. He probably wouldn't have become Dabi. And we got to see what happened that fateful day when they thought Toya had died. And somehow he freaking survived that whole thing. But yeah, essentially Toya got into an argument with his mother, essentially bringing up that, yeah, your parents sold you to my dad. And I'm like, dude, that's crossing a line. Don't bring that up to your mother. And, yeah. By this point, they're still talking to Endeavor, and they tell him that, yeah, you're not going to be able to not have to deal with Dabi. You're going to have to face him at some point, and obviously Shoto's going to help him with that, because he's going to have to try and face him himself as well. But the others, they're not going to be able to do much of anything, when it comes to facing him, because they don't fight. They're not fighters. And even if they tried, their ice isn't going to do a thing against him if they have the ice powers. Because I don't know if Fuyumi and Natsuo have them. And at this point, Best Jeanist and Hawks walk in because they heard the whole most of the conversation. And essentially tell him that, yeah, we're going to have to try and figure out what's causing all this resentment from Dabi, try and figure it out, try and help him, because he's still in there. The real Toya is still in there, hurting from all this, and they need to try and fix it. And they finally convince Endeavor, essentially, that, yeah, he's gonna have to do something about it. But he's not gonna be able to do anything at the moment because he's still recovering. unless, like I said, they get Recovery Girl in there to help with all that, because that's the only way they're going to bounce back from this anytime soon. And yeah, it got to the point where Sue had to wrap her tongue around Bakugo to keep him from going to Midoriya's door, because the others weren't able to stop it. And Janus had walked out at this point and asked him, "Hey, are you okay?" What was it? He's like, "Does it look like I'm okay?" And they were going to have to talk with Midoriya, because they were asking Endeavor, well, what is One for All, because they had heard Shigaraki mention it, and they heard Endeavor mentioning it over the mic. And I'm guessing Endeavor told him about the conversation that Deku had with him, that, I think Shigaraki's coming after me. And the only thing they could think of as to One for All might be, when it comes to Deku, has to be a quirk, because it's not a person. And so, that's going to be coming out in the open at some point. Probably in the next episode, if not the episode after, because Midoriya is still out of it. Apparently his body is fine. I'm guessing as fine as it can be, considering that fight. But it's, I guess, more of a mental thing that he hasn't woken up yet. And All Might thinks he might be talking to the vestiges in his head from One for All. Which means I am curious as to what they're going to be talking about in there. Maybe we'll get that next episode. But let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. Yes, Endeavor is obviously an ass. He was abusive to a point, but now we see the reasoning as to why he kept Shoto away from them. Why Dabi kind of ended up the way he did. And that Ray actually agreed to the quirk marriage. Of her own free will. She wasn't forced to. And I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts about it. Please let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.